Hey everyone, welcome to it's episode 129. And today we're going to talk about finding the advantage in things that go wrong, essentially. This is not a conversation about toxic positivity. This is a conversation about allowing things to happen. It's about being active in the movie and the script of your own life and giving yourself the opportunity to see things from more than one perspective. And we've talked about this a little bit before, allowing magic by being certain that things are going to work out for you. And this is just a different perspective on that. As I say, it's about being in the mindset of advantage. Where's the advantage here? So I'm Natasha Lockie. I am a life and business mountain bike performance coach. I'm all about helping you get out of your own way so that you can create the life that you dream of. It's all about embracing your crazy and then working within that space and not judging anything. Good luck with that. And I am here joined by my co-host Ginny, as always, and I'll let her introduce herself and then we will dive into this conversation.
Yeah, I am Ginny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you want to explore more about life from your pet's perspective and or work through some struggles or challenges that you might be having together with your pet, then that's a great reason to get connected and have a session together.
Okay, so finding the advantage this relates to everything, really, everything.
Everything.
And it's interesting because this is something that I've actually had to work at refining in my life. I found that I was almost too good at this, possibly to the detriment. So something would happen, and instead of me taking a beat to process what had happened, I would be trying to fix it, but also like, it's okay. This is good. This happened, and so therefore this other thing didn't happen, right? Like, my bus just got DOT'd. I now don't have a bus. However, it gave me the opportunity to get audited by the DOT, which sucked, but now everything is in line. So all the mistakes I was making are fixed, so I'm not going to get in bigger trouble down the road. I also didn't realize that my bus was as unsafe as it was because the person who did the commercial vehicle inspection 6 weeks ago told me that this bus was good to go. And I'm not a mechanic, so I took their word for it. And I'm now driving like 40 people around on a snowy road with a bus that's floor is so rotten someone could literally fall through it. These are not good things. So therefore, I'm thankful that something worse didn't happen because it could have. Now, what sucks is I've now got to figure out a new bus. The other thing was I only paid $5,000 for the bus. So, in all of these things, there were a lot of advantages. And I could see them because otherwise I would have gone crazy because the alternative was not a place where my brain could go because I needed to solve the problem. But when I was running this contract, this is the first year of my bus contract, what happened was it was just one advantage after another advantage after another advantage. And I just kept seeing the positive. And then one day I kind of just broke down because all of these things had just piled up on top of me. And and I realized that although it's really important to see the advantage, the other side is acknowledging, like, okay, yep, this is positive. These things are great. But this also sucks a little bit, and I have to manage this situation. So, again, where toxic positivity comes into this is when you're just always finding things that are positive and you're not balancing it, right? Whereas you can see both sides. When you're looking for the advantage, you have to acknowledge what's happened in order for you to be able to then find the advantage and then find the solution. And I feel like there's the process that's in there. And we just want to acknowledge that if you can be in this space, then you can manage a situation effectively. You're not a pushover. And you also can move forward with it being the advantage, which puts you kind of like what we were talking about last week. It puts you in control of the script. It puts you in control of what is happening as opposed to being that NPC that's just getting steamrolled and being in shitty situations the whole time and just feeling like you're being taken advantage of and you don't know how to manage it.
Yeah. To me, this is a both and, right? This is looking at shitty situations and acknowledging that it's shitty. It was really shitty that we had a flood in our house a couple months ago because the contractor didn't seal up the roof before they left while it was in process. That was shitty. It was really shitty having to crawl around in our attic trying to catch water desperately. And it was cold up there to boot. So that was shitty. And we could stay there, right? We could stay in how shitty of an experience that was and just never let that situation be anything other than that. Or we can look at it and say, well, the contractor took care of it immediately the next morning. They took full responsibility for it. And then we developed a plan from there about what we needed to do next. We also developed a plan that if things didn't clear up on their own, that we would actually go ahead and replace the door and the window, which were older and inefficient, leaky, not leaky as in water, but leaky as in air. It's very cold here in the winter and they are terribly inefficient. So we were going to take that bad situation and turn it into an opportunity and take advantage of it to be able to make an improvement that we weren't really ready to do, but was also necessary. And if we were going to have to rip apart the wall, we might as well go ahead and make that improvement. So we would take advantage of that situation in that moment. So it's a both and, right? Because I think your example is a perfect scenario of getting stuck in too much advantage. And the flip side of that is getting stuck in too much problem, right? Or whatever the shitty situation is and just doing nothing but wallowing around in the shittiness of it. And when we end up in one or the other, that's when we end up stuck in the weeds. But if we can go, yeah, this really sucked. It might be sucky now. I don't know what the outcome is, but I'm sure that there's something in here that would be helpful or useful or advantageous for me in the future. We can sit with both of those things at the same time. That gives us the freedom of the full scope of what's possible to come
And
to
it
us.
also is like an in the moment thing as well. It doesn't work if you're in the moment yelling at each other, running around, losing your shit. Then the next morning you lose your shit on the contractor. You have a horrible situation. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, well, actually, you know what? That did work out for the best. That's not taking advantage. That's being able to see how things worked out in hindsight, right? Whereas when you can be in the moment and be like, yeah, this isn't fun. This isn't how I wanted to spend my Sunday. And this is what we're going to do tomorrow morning. Contractor's going to come. We're going to chat to him. This isn't the worst case scenario. We didn't just get a new wall put in with a new door and now it's damaging the brand new work that we just had. That is work that we're planning on having. So in the long run, this is going to work out. So how can we communicate with the builder that might actually enable us to get a discount on that work whilst fixing a problem that they created? And so it's all being right there in the moment and figuring out when you're in that space of advantage, again, you're able to see the next screen that you want to create. Right? You can see the conversation that's going to happen with the contractor and you can see how you're going to manage that conversation in order to be able to get the result that you want. So this mindset allows you to wake up and be present to a situation that's happening and not go down the poop chute. And I think the other thing is that it allows you to figure out how to stand your ground and when to stand your ground and where you have rights and don't have rights. And this is something that I know I struggle with, that I think probably most females struggle with, because we really don't know a lot of the times whether we are being irrational or whether we are actually standing in our power. And God forbid we get called Karen. And
Yeah.
because,
Or hysterical.
yeah, right? And so it's like, well, is my anger at this situation and my upset at this situation, and am I being treated unfairly? Is that justified? And how can I use this as an advantage for my future and my ability to stand in my power and stand up for myself and know how to have difficult conversations? Because it's not something we were taught.
Yeah. I think one of the things there is that in general, on the whole, most people are uncomfortable being around powerful emotions and being in powerful emotions. And when you are in a shitty situation, there's often some pretty powerful emotions that are rolling around. I think the key is remembering you are not your emotions, you are experiencing your emotions. And so that doesn't mean that you need to actually take action on anything. As we sat in the attic on top of the cooler, staring at the water dripping in into buckets and totes and bins, all Eddie could say was, "I'm so angry." And I'm like, you have every right to be angry. But in that moment, there was nothing to act on. There was no action to take. And so sometimes you just need to be able to sit in the middle of a shitty situation and be like, I am feeling blank, and just let it be what it is. And then as soon as the opportunity arises, you can start to take different actions that will lead you to hopefully the advantage at that point. Screaming and throwing things around and yelling at each other would not have stopped the water from coming in. And frankly, we probably would have caught less water that way. It would have done more damage because we would have been flailing rather than actually focusing on fixing what needed to be taken care of that we could manage in the moment as best we could. So these are all things that take practice. And one of the only reasons that I am remotely good at being around powerful emotions is because of the horses. Because when they have an emotional experience, it's a big deal. It is a lot of energy. They are very, very large animals. It's extremely powerful. And to be able to stand next to that and not necessarily take action, because it's not mine to take action on, I don't actually need to do anything with their powerful emotion, is hard, especially as a woman. Because as women, we get told to be demure and calm down, don't overreact, don't do things like that. So it is a skill that is very challenging to learn as a woman, but it's vital to being able to manage these situations because powerful emotions aren't wrong. They're a part of life and they're a part of our human experience. And the better we can get at being with them when they happen and being okay with whatever the emotion is, it is perfectly okay to be angry. It is perfectly okay to be scared, to be afraid, or to be worried or fearful about what the outcome of a situation could be. I was scared that the contractors weren't going to own up to the problem and fix it for
Mm-hmm.
us. Thankfully, it wasn't anything that was massively catastrophic, but I was worried that they weren't going to just take care of it. So, in those moments, you have to be able to be okay with whatever is flowing through you and allow it to be there, not make it wrong.
Yep.
And then to look for what the next best step is that's going to help support the situation in the most positive way. And again, the challenge is when we get stuck in one or the other of those phases and we have trouble holding the both and, that we get bogged down and stuck in the weeds. And that's when our outcomes are worse. You getting inspected by DOT could have led to the business getting shut down
Well,
somehow.
and
But if you panic and think about that as the only option, it's a lot more likely to happen at that point.
well, yeah, and Ian wasn't there, and there was a lot going on, and there's a couple of things in there. I was a snowboard guide for a cat ski company at the time, and my mountain biking and extreme sports bring up extreme emotions because I'm managing 12 people, making sure they don't die in an avalanche or fall in a tree. There's a lot going on, and I'm a female, and I'm on a snowboard, and I'm managing these men that fall over, and I'd go to help them, and like most of the time their egos were too big to let a girl help them up, which was great because you'd have the odd guy that would be like, sure, help me. I'm like, you're 250 pounds. Like, how am I supposed to help you? Like, I'll do my best. But I was always thankful that most of the time they were like, oh, go get my stuff. Like, really, you should let me help you. But cool, no problem. But all that to say, I was having to manage a lot of things and a lot of stuff and a lot of information all at the same time. It's like ski guide goes first, and then I'm standing there and I have to make sure that I manage this group and, all of the things. So a few days after all this happened, I then get a call from, I can't remember if it was one of my drivers or the DOT guy, but in any case, he had pulled over my drivers and given them grief for my passengers not having safety belts on or something like that. And I was like, what are you doing? Why did you pull them over? I'm managing this situation. You've taken my bus off me. I am managing this situation. I have a contract. Why are you picking on me? We've talked. I'm doing all the things you've asked me to do. Do you want me to not be in business? Because if you don't want me to be in business, you have the power and the authority to make that possible. So let's just be honest right now. Do you want me to just, I'll say goodbye to the contract and we'll call it even, or you can stop picking on me because I'm doing the best I can right now. And I know a lot of organizations, including the one I was working for, that are not following the rules that you're expecting me to follow, and you're not pulling them over. And you know who I'm talking about. So, what's it going to be? And he was like, and that was the end of that. And I was like completely honest with him. I'm like, dude, give me the word because I can't fight this. But I just drove a bus yesterday that is 100% not, I didn't say this, but it's like, I'm now going out and safetying a vehicle, knowing all the things I now know because I've just been audited. And the vehicle I'm driving as a commercial driver doesn't have all the things it should have based on what I know. And they've never once been pulled over. And you know that they go up every morning. You could pull them over, but you're choosing not to. And I know somebody else who's doing the same thing I'm doing, putting skis in the vehicle, whatever. And you're not pulling them over, and they exist too. But I was able to have that. I was like, chips on the table here because I can't fight the man. And if you've got a problem with me, then we're done.
Yeah.
And being able to be in the advantage. Well, you know what, honestly, if I can't, the advantage to this is I wouldn't have any of this stress and I could just go powder skiing. Because the money I'm making right now is not worth any of this. And I can happily just walk away from it. And I could totally see the advantage of that. And on the other hand, I ended up having a really good relationship with the guy because he realized that, okay, this chick's actually trying. Out of all the operators in the area, she might actually end up being the best one because she's trying. And we resolved the problem. But it took being able to manage that and not yell and scream and get mad at him and turn him into an enemy that enabled me to do that. And I am so scared of my big emotions when I'm out in the surf and something happens and I say something to my husband afterwards and he gets upset with me because he's like, well, you were in the right. And I'm like, but I don't know if I am. And I don't want to have an irrational, like, yell at somebody because they've done something that I see as wrong when in fact I'm the one in the wrong. He's like, you've been doing this long enough. You should know better. I'm like, but I don't. And I'm like, I don't think what they did was okay, but I'm not sure. So I don't want to cause a scene and then be the bad one. A lot of times I don't go for waves that I could totally go for because I don't want to be seen dropping in on someone. And he'll be like, did you not see that that person missed every single wave they just went for? Drop in on them because they're going to fall. You're not. I'm like, I don't want I don't want to be the bad person in the room because it really annoys me when people drop in on me, and it really annoys me when people do things. I don't want to be the one doing that to somebody else, so it means I hesitate. And but the more I'm out there, the more I'm learning, and I'm also trying to learn to say things to people nicely, learning, or not say anything at all. And then I get in trouble. He's like, why didn't you yell at
Yeah.
them? Why didn't you tell them to get off the wave? I'm like, well, because I'm not sure. But when the guy pushed his
Yeah.
girlfriend in on top of me and I got smashed by a massive board, I was pretty sure that was wrong.
Yeah. I think the other piece you're speaking to is just as women, how we're conditioned to both not make waves, pardon the pun, but also to second guess ourselves and gaslight ourselves into the passive side of things. And so that does make it harder for us to stand in those emotions and feel them and also be able to have a reasonable response. And I think the issue that we see is that most people bottle all that stuff up and then it explodes out at something else that's unrelated or disproportional to the scenario that's happening. And then you don't get to take advantage of what's happening at that
Well, then you
point.
end up with a
And
victim mentality, right?
yeah, you do.
Because
Yeah. And
you're not
so,
seeing any advantage in any situation, and you just feel like you're being taken advantage of the entire time. And yeah, you might see it further down the road when you look back at it, but in that moment, you're just too busy being a victim.
yeah. Well, and by that time, if you ever do see the advantage, you've burned the bridge. So the relationship is now not salvageable or not able to be reconciled because you have just exploded to the point where it's not helpful to anyone. And that's the whole idea of like don't pass the hot potato,
Mm-hmm.
right? This was a anecdote I've shared before that came from one of the yoga teachers that she was teaching her kiddo, that when someone is mean to you or does something hurtful to you, don't pass that hot potato to somebody else because they did nothing. They don't know where that hot potato came from and it's not their hot potato, but now you've given it to them and they have to deal with it. And so if we can learn to just grab an oven mitt and hold on to the potato for a little bit without having to throw it at somebody else or chuck it in someone else's direction, it's amazing what things can happen. And just because somebody gives you a hot potato doesn't mean you can't grab your own oven mitt and just stand there with it and be like, yeah, that sucked. I'm sorry. Because we never know what other people are going
Yeah.
through. So if we can find the compassionate route both for ourselves and for other people, then that opens up so much more possibility, again, to take advantage of situations and to be able to come out the other side with the best possible outcome for everyone. I can look at individual situations in my life and see when that
Yeah.
worked and see when I didn't do so good at it, because there's definitely been a lot of times I didn't do so good at it. Sometimes people were compassionate and helped me anyway, or supported me anyway, helped me through it. And other times I may have lost opportunities because I wasn't as compassionate as I should have been, or I wasn't able to be with the emotions. Sometimes I wasn't able to stand up for myself as much as I would have liked to. It's all a learning experience. So you just have to keep practicing at it and get better and better. And then one day something happens, like your house gets flooded, and you can feel in that moment that you're already handling that differently than you might have 6 months, a year, several years before.
Yeah.
And so being with that both and is the most powerful place because it allows all of the possibility to be available to you. And you're not shutting off the best things that could happen to you that could come out of situations that feel terrible in the moment.
Well, it was really interesting because with the surfing scenario, I knew that I was not in the wrong. Things happen. It's all good. But I got taken out by a very big board. And she was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Your boyfriend kind of just pushed you into me. All good. But then he came up and he didn't say anything to me, checks if she's okay, and then and paddles off. And I was like, really? Like, you didn't even apologize. And I was like, okay, like, not cool. And then my husband said something to him and said something to her. And then I'm paddling in and he's all being like weird, like making gestures to me on the beach. And I kind of like put my stroke. I was like, what? You know, and I came in and he starts yelling at me about how my husband, if he wanted to say something to him, should have spoken to him and not his girlfriend. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, but you're yelling at me like this is, and so I instantly was like, okay, well, let's go to the situation. I'm like, you shouldn't have pushed her in on top of me, and you didn't even say sorry. So instead of like confronting him about the stupidity of what he was saying to me, I'm like, well, I'm going to have my conversation with you then about what just happened, because that's what we're going to do. And it was actually kind of funny when I looked at it in retrospect, because what I didn't realize is that my dog, who's a very large black dog, is circling around me howling slightly. And this guy's like backing away from me. And I'm like, why are you backing up? Not even having a conversation with me. And he kind of like throws like, I'm a local, and walks away from me. And I'm like, okay, well, right. That was weird. Like, first you yell at me about my husband not doing what you're doing to me. And then you didn't even apologize for the fact I've got a massive bruise on my hip. And then like, I'm a local. And I'm like, that was just weird. And so then my husband, he's a bit upset about the whole thing, but he gets out of the water and he like takes his board off and kind of takes off and leaves his fins sitting on the sand and doesn't realize till later. And so we go down and see if we can find the flippers. No one's seen them. Flippers are gone. Like, well, we tried. We talked to a bunch of people. Ian was like, well, if they show up, because everyone was like, well, if they show up, well, I'm like, as if they're going to show up. Like, that's just weird. Like, no one picked them up. We won't see them. And then, like, a week later, we'd been gone for a week, but a week later, we were at the beach yesterday. And it was funny. Ian wanted to go down for a surf. And I was like, I'm so tired. I really don't want to. We go down anyway. And as we're leaving, one of the boys was like, hey, I found your flippers. Gives the flippers back to Ian. And then as we're leaving the parking lot, the guy who we'd had the conversation with appeared out of nowhere and was like, hey guys, I just wanted to say really sorry for what happened the other day. We rode off and we're like, I was like, a week later, everything's resolved. Got flippers, got a new friend. Like, I'm sure now every time we see him, he'll be friendly to us, we'll be friendly to him. And it was just so interesting. It didn't feel good in the moment, but what felt really good to me was that I was very much present with not having the conversation with him about what my husband had said or hadn't said, or the fact that he shouldn't have spoken, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, now you're doing the same thing. And changing the conversation so that I could actually be like, well, this wasn't cool, what you did. It gave me the opportunity to actually walk away being like, yeah, you know what? I do have rights out there. And I do get to have a voice when I'm out there. I feel like I'm a floundering girl who doesn't know what they're doing. And and then I catch a wave and I'm like, no, every time I catch a wave and I surf a wave, I feel like I have more respect from people, because if people see me catching waves and riding the waves, if I catch a wave, I generally don't fall off of it. I don't always ride it properly, but I don't catch and go over the handlebars, which I have no idea what anyone's thinking. But for me, it gives me just a little more confidence. And then figuring out the etiquette and figuring out where I can push and where I can't push and where that's not fair and where this is fair. Yesterday I was out there and like this guy went for a wave. I'm like, I have priority. And then he kind of paddled out and I'm like, the next wave that comes, I don't care who's on it. Like, I'm dropping in because I have priority. I have been sitting out here the longest. As far as I'm concerned, this is a surf competition. And I'm going to take off. And then no waves came. And I was like, I was ready. And then a wave finally came and I took it and it was the wrong one. And I was like, oh, I lost my priority. Damn it. Go again. But you start to see things and you start to see the world just a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter and a little bit more opportunities. when, as you say, we can hold those big emotions and move through them in the present space. And then, I'm going to say it again, and then step into a conscious zone of what's happening next, not an unconscious zone. Ian was like, I lost my flippers. It's now 6 hours later. He's like, will you come down and see if they're still down there? And I'm like, as if they're still going to be there. Like, why are we even bothering? I'm sure I'll come down with you. This is silly. And he's like, well, I'll go down, I'll ask. And as we're asking, I'm still like, well, this is silly, you know? But it wasn't silly. It was the exact right thing to do because Ian's like, people know us. They will show back up. Clearly, he's smarter than I
Yeah.
am.
What I love most about both of these situations is that you didn't expend a lot of energy after the situations happened. It happened and you moved on and allowed it to be what it was in that moment. And as a result, a week later, you got the fins back and ended up basically making a new friend out of it because you weren't ruminating and chewing on it over and over and over and expending so much energy just being upset about something that didn't really warrant it. And when we can let go of situations that happen like that and just allow them to be what they were in the moment, again, it frees up all of that energy to go somewhere else that's so much more constructive for us and beneficial to us in the long run.
Yeah.
I mean, there's direct relationships between anxiety and gut problems. And sometimes it's a chicken and an egg. But when we have an opportunity to control those situations and not get stuck chewing on them, then we free up all that energy to be able to be used in another way. If you can figure out how to master that, it makes life so much easier. Sometimes will be better than others. When you're already under a lot of stress with six other things, this is going to be really, really hard. But when you're taking care of yourself and your own well being and you're working on these practices, you have a daily practice, go back to that. When you have all these things in place, then when you have bumps in the road, yeah, you walk down to the beach, you tell a few people, and you let it go.
Yeah.
And they show back up a week later.
And, Ian is incredibly good at this. Again, when you're doing extreme sports, there's a lot of opportunities. But I see him, he wakes up in the morning and he'll be in pain and frustrated. And he then figures out the next step. Like with the flippers, it was just an extension of that. He was pissed, like so bummed out, right? As you would be. He has another pair that he bought, but they're too big. He tried them on, but he's like, you know what? I can wear them with my booties and they'll be fine. So he was like, that's what I'll do. I guess that's what I got to do. And then when he gets them back, he's just like, oh my God, score. So stoked. And it's the same thing. We've got new surfboards, and he's been like, I just want to try the old surfboards to just get a comparison because I'm not sure I'm really loving my new surfboard. And then he had an accident and he has to get his surfboard fixed. And so now he's got no choice but to try the surfboards out. And the way things generally work with Ian, he'll go through obviously the upset because we all get upset. And then he processes the upset and gets about life because you can only be upset so much that you're like paralyzed and you've got these things going on until you're like, well, all right, but at least I can still walk. And so I will take advantage of what I have, which is what he's doing with the surfboards. And then he'll get the new surfboard back and hopefully he'll be like, oh my God, now I've used the other ones. No, this surfboard really is way better than the ones, or not. I'll update you on that when that happens. But that's generally what I see process on a moment by moment daily basis with my husband is just he gets super upset because as you say he's managing pain and all of this other stuff and he wakes up and he's already at like an 8 out of 10 in pain and then he's got to manage all of the things but he does and then he finds a solution and I used to joke with him I'd be like can we just skip the tantrum in the middle like and I've learned to just stand back and I just watch the show because it's like something goes wrong. Ian freaks out that the world is ending. And then he takes a breath and he solves the problem like a rock star. And then everything's fine. And I'm like, can we not have the stress in the middle? But apparently not because we're still doing that. But my lesson is just to disconnect because I know everything's going to be all right. Actually, the bigger the stress for him is, the quicker that we'll probably resolve the problem. So I'm like, doesn't look like fun, but seems to work.
But that's also being with the big emotions, right? And as a culture and society, we are so conditioned to, especially again, as a female response, it's okay, it's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Don't get upset. We're so conditioned to immediately shut down big displays of emotion.
Yep.
And it does a huge disservice to us because then we don't move it along. But what Ian's figured out is if he just has the big display of emotion, it's over and he can move on and take advantage of whatever else the situation can reveal.
Totally.
And the more we can get okay with that in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
process, the easier it is to flow right on through. Because, yeah, powerful emotions happen, they happen to all of us. And if you are always trying to placate them away and shut them down, then we will never process them. And then they end up coming out in a bad way in a situation that could be
Yep.
irreconcilable or that really could have a bigger impact. Like you said, you could have ranted and raved to that official, and he probably would have put a target on your back for the rest of time
Right.
at that point. Or you had the opportunity to be able to just stand in your power and realize there are big emotions there. And as a result, you got the better outcome out of it.
Yep.
And so it's all about navigating those ups and downs as they happen and being okay with the dichotomy of a both and situation. The more we master this, the easier life gets, but it is a practice, it takes time. I didn't start learning these things until I was well into my 30s, and I don't consider myself really to be all that proficient with them in a lot of regards. I see how much more room I have for growth in my own journey and my own trajectory. And it's just something that you always keep stepping towards, baby steps, small steps. That's what we talk about so much. You just keep looking for the next easiest step. One day you look and you realize, hey, that's not how I would have handled that. And look at what I just did easily and lightly.
Well, and it's cool because you start to be able to deal with those big emotions. And it was really neat on our way down here this year. I started to notice how good I have gotten at stepping back and allowing Ian to go through his process and not judging it and just being like, yeah, that sucks. Okay, I'm here. I'm here to support. What do we need to do? And not be judging it, not be scared of other people's opinions or what other people might think or how he might look from the outside or whatever it might be, and just be like, you don't know it. Back to that comparison thing, right? Like anyone judging from the outside, they have no idea what's going on. We have no idea what anybody else is going through. And so your opinion doesn't actually matter. This is actually totally within context. You might not realize it because you're not
Yeah.
dealing with it. So think what you want, move along. But that ability to watch myself manage things and look at the advantages of any situation. It's a great way to be. Not always easy. And the more we can do it in the moment that it's happening, the more in control we are, and we're awake. We're not just allowing ourselves to be the NPC in the video game, the non playing, we don't even know what that means, but the person who's not actually participating, the non participating character
Yeah.
is what I'm going to call it. Instead, you are actively participating in everything that is happening as you go along.
Yeah.
That's the end of the story. Actively participate,
Yep. Yes. I love it.
and not in a negative way.
Yeah.
Not by complaining. If
Yeah.
you're complaining, you are not actively participating. You are just allowing
No.
the shit to happen to you and for it to be shit. And that's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Not how that
And
works.
you get to be your level of crazy. And if the rest of the world's looking at you going, dude, that chick's crazy, then you're doing something right. It means you're
Yeah.
actually being you. You've burnt the bunny suit, as Laura Michelle would say, and you're like totally embracing the dragon. Sometimes the dragon is red and breathing fire, and sometimes it's like a unicorn dragon. But as long as it's not the bunny suit.
Yes. I love it.
Okay, thank you so much for being here with us today. If this has had value for you, we're going to ask you a huge favor. I'm going to ask you to share this with somebody. Just open up your messenger and just be like, hey, I was thinking of you. You might enjoy this episode. They might not ever listen to it, but they will feel loved. Also, if you would leave a comment, like, share, remember, anyone who's putting out content will love you forever if you help their algorithm. Even if you hate what they're doing, just give them some love because somebody else might actually need the message. Is my little spiel. I am Natasha Lockie. I am a life, business, mountain bike performance coach. I am here to help you get out of your own way so that you can achieve the life of your dreams and really embracing your crazy. That's what it's all about. So that's how we get what we want. And you can find me on Facebook, Natasha Lockie. You can find me on Substack, Natasha Lockie, and you can also find me on Instagram at Betty Gohard. So have an amazing day, week. I'll let Ginny sign us off.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you want to explore your relationship with your pet on a deeper level, that'd be a great reason to have a session together. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Instagram, Facebook, Substack, and YouTube under the same handle. So thank you so much again for hanging on through this wild ride through the weeds today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.